Welcome to episode 4 of the GBNO, or Get Better Not Older podcast. I'm Dr. Rob Jones. This is my awesome wife, Shannon, and welcome. So with each podcast, we're going to bring to you informative information from my side, which is the outside in, and from Shannon's side, which is the
inside out.
Right. So this is why we're such a good team. So we've done previous podcasts. This one today is going to be about knee pain and really physical activity and fat loss. And really these are common things that we see that are low-hanging fruit to help us GBNO or get better, not older. Just to give you a little bit of background, if this is your first time tuning into us, between the two of us, 50 years of clinical experience. I'm educated as a chiropractor, but my practice really for 25 years has been focusing on rehabilitation, sports injuries, working with high-level athletes and recreational athletes, and really any walk of life of a person getting injured. Shannon is a registered and licensed dietitian.
And I predominantly focus on cellular health as it relates to disease prevention, as well as weight management, obesity prevention for pediatrics, adolescents, and adults.
What I'm seeing in my clinical world as a practicing doctor is we've gone to this method of algorithm. You have A, we go to B. Oh, you have this pain, we need to get a scan. That's the science of the medical industry. We need to get back the art of the medical industry, and that's where we come in. We take a deeper dive, a look at individual problems so we can solve the problem from a foundational standpoint, treat the foundational issues that create the symptoms, not just treat the symptoms.
Absolutely. I think that's really what this is all about, is kind of stepping outside that allopathic model, which is where we're used to, just treating, medicating the symptoms. This is about figuring out what your body is trying to tell you, taking care of it, preserving what's good, and getting better and getting healthier as we age.
Absolutely. So what we like to say is, again, GBNO, or Get Better Not Older, health from the outside in and inside out. And really, it's going to help you to live the life you want to live as you age, which is what we do. So we're going to help you move, feel, so you can live better. So me being the physical medicine guy, Dr. Rob is your move better. Shannon is your feel better, because she's the inside out, and the two of us together are the live better. If you want to just review what we've covered so far, just in a nutshell, the last couple of episodes were about...
Let's see. Well, we started with hip mobility.
Yep.
And the importance of evaluating your metabolic health before you jump into something new as far as a regimen.
Yep.
I think we talked about the importance of muscle and gaining muscle mass. Yep. and the importance of that to your metabolic health.
Yep. And then one of the key points that I drive home every day with patients, and in really any podcast we do as guests or this podcast, is musculoskeletal health. We don't want to be in our 50s and 60s all slumped over with bad posture. That is what sets us up for poor movement, falling, and all the sequelae that happens from that. So build some muscle, move better, so you can feel better and live better.
So today we're going to jump into knee pain, because I know this is an area that you get a lot. Mm-hmm. And I see it as when people do have knee pain, it prevents them from being able to move as much as they want. Specifically, today we're going to talk a lot about walking, and then how that correlates to actually a decrease in all-cause mortality, as well as changing your body composition, especially with being able to reduce your visceral fat.
Right. So, okay. So you, again, she's always ahead of me because she's smarter than me. But diving into this, really what I was going to say was one of the first suggestions I hear you make to your patients, and I try to make to my patients, is if you're coming off an injury or you've been unfit and you're just getting off the couch, the first thing you've got to be able to do is just walk, right? You just got to be able to go out for a walk. Now, the problem is, what happens if I have some sort of pain and I can't walk because it hurts? And that's where I come in. So let's talk about some of the things that can actually happen to your knee in the absence of a current injury. Okay, so If you've been following my social media, you'll know back a couple of months ago, I sprained my MCL pretty badly playing sand volleyball with my daughter. That's an actual injury to the knee that I needed to correct with rest and rehab and strengthening. A lot of people have knee pain simply because of poor mechanics and muscle imbalance. So when we hear terms like, oh, I have arthritis in my knee, well, my doctor told me when I had knee pain after an x-ray, I had arthritis, so I should stay away from XYZ. Well, let me tell you right now, the diagnosis, just the general diagnosis of knee arthritis is a garbage diagnosis. Just because somebody has a little bit of a joint breakdown, it does not mean that you're screwed and you cannot move. Okay, I've got knee arthritis and my knees can go through a full range of motion pain-free.
And I think that's honestly important to punctuate, because it is a break in what we call a system that people are used to following.
Yeah.
It hurts, they can't move, they go to their doctor and they get films, x-rays, what have you, and then that almost in itself stifles their ability to progress or go forward.
Well, often, the good doctors will say, well, go to physical therapy and let's get you moving again. But a lot of times people don't follow up on that. And I don't like to tell people when I see their scans. Actually, a lot of people come in now with scans already. Okay, I had an MRI, my back hurts or my knee hurts. I went to my doctor, I had an MRI. They told me to come see you or go physical therapy. A lot of times I won't even look at the image until I assess them, because simply I don't want that image to taint what I see clinically. Because you can have, diagnostically on an image, you can have some degenerative change in the joint, but the joint moves fine and it's a weakness issue. So just because there's a little bit of joint breakdown, it's maybe a little bit white on x-ray, or there's just some little, minor little craters in the cartilage, it doesn't matter. If you get it moving, the inflammation will go down, the pain will go down, and then you can increase function.
And I think, again, this falls back on that clinical experience and the importance of, just because a film says this, it's the experience of you knowing how to properly assess over the years that really kind of can get people out of pain and moving again.
Right. Okay, so let's categorize really quick the types of knee pain. Acute injury like I had, like you fall, you twist, you have a MCL sprain, you tear something. Okay, those are going to be more acute, need to be managed in an acute setting. For what we're talking about is if you've been inactive or you've had an injury several years ago and you just haven't done anything with it, now you're in this subacute chronic phase where you just need to assess mobility and strength. Those are the two really the biggest things. What are your soft tissue restrictions in that joint? What are your quads doing? What are your hamstrings doing? What's your calf and ankle doing? What are things upstream doing, like the hip? We figure that stuff out, do some rehabilitation, stretching if it's tight, strengthening if it's loose and unstable, then we go for our walks.
Right. And that's really kind of what we're talking about, is just the importance to your health as you get better and not older. Because if you are not addressing why your body is signaling pain, then that's going to prevent you from being as healthy as you can.
Right.
And today we're going to talk about a study that is pretty impressive and it was published in JAMA, which is a reputable clinical journal in 2020, that is pretty convincing.
Okay, let me mention one more thing. So when you have chronic pain and you don't move properly and you favor your knee, say, because we're talking about the knee, and you have a really hard time getting out of your chair, out of your car, so if it's your right knee that's sore, you shift over to your left knee, you kind of stop using that right knee. What will start to happen is, because the joint is not functioning properly, meaning the range of motion is shortened, there's a little bit of breakdown in the joint, it's weak, it's unstable, you can get something called arthrogenic inhibition, arthrogenic neuromuscular inhibition. What that simply means is the joint is signaling back to the brain. We have this mechanism in our body called proprioception. It's like when you lose your balance really quickly when you're walking, but you recalibrate, you catch yourself really quick, okay? Or if you touch a hot surface, you pull your hand away. That's your brain communicating with the environment to say, hey, dummy, that's a hot surface, pull your hand away. That's normal. It happens really fast. Hot surface, receptor in the finger signaling the brain really quickly. It's like 250 meters per second or something like that. And then it signals back, hot, 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 pull the hand away. That's normal function. Arthrogenic neuromuscular inhibition is that mechanism is now interrupted. So because the joint doesn't function right, the brain isn't getting proper signals and sending proper signals back. So the muscles weaken around the joint. So that's why you'll see not really just joint weakness because the muscles atrophy, but literally it's like shutting off a switch.
Will there be pain with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get it. You will get pain in the joint that causes that situation. But now when you have weakness in the muscle because of the nerves not signaling the muscles can get overstrained and cause a stress response or a signaling pain response. So it kind of feeds itself, right?
So people would know that this is going on because they're feeling like,
I got nothing in that leg.
Okay.
I'm treating a guy right now who's pretty active, 60-year-old. He's a golfer. And he comes in, he's got some arthritis in his knee, which again, I don't ever tell him that because I don't want him to think that he's screwed with this. But we have to do some activation exercises before we start training. And he does some activation exercises for his knee before he golfs because he has to turn off that arthrogenic signal, basically. And once he does that, it's kind of amazing. It's almost like a parlor trick, but he gets his strength back almost right away because it's reflexive. And his pain goes right down because there's no longer strain to the knee.
So this is preventative completely.
100%. It's curative and it's preventative. So we manage that, then we get people into the walking. And let's talk about the importance of that because we are living a lifestyle right now that we are not designed to live.
Yeah. So we were really built to move a minimum of 12 hours a day. I don't actually really know where that 12 hours comes from. But regardless, if you think about how we have evolved.
Well, even think about farmers up
Yeah.
at the crack of dawn, moving all day long, stopping to eat, coming inside at dusk.
Yeah. And honestly, we are doing the opposite. We're sitting, on intake forms when I'm working with patients and I ask them how many hours a day they're either looking at a screen or sitting, it is upwards of 8 to 12 hours a day. By the time people couple together maybe a sedentary job with the evening hours and maybe even some drive time. So we're doing the polar opposite of what our bodies were meant to do. We were supposed to stay physically active. And I remember when I dissected a cadaver in school.
Is this before or after you passed out?
Oh, I passed out numerous times, but who knows which one.
Sorry,
but
I couldn't resist.
Our cadaver was face down when we started dissecting, and we thought it was male because it ended up being a she, was so muscular. Mm-hmm. And to come and find out she was a farmer. Mm-hmm. And was a farmer into her 80s, and it was amazing how developed her muscles were. Mm-hmm. Now, she wasn't going to a gym. Yep. She, all of that. We just don't live that way to keep our muscles formed anymore, strength up, as well as being active 12 plus hours a day.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is you go out in public or you see on Instagram, you see the outlier 75-year-old who's deadlifting 250 pounds, or when you're out to dinner with your significant other and you see somebody in their 70s or 80s and they're pretty fit and muscular, like, wow, look at how amazing that woman or man looks. Like, again, I brought up Mark Sisson in the past. I'll bring him up again. I think he's in his early 70s.
He is.
And he's yoked. He looks amazing. That shouldn't be the outlier, right? You take that guy, I think even you and I are in our 50s, compare us to 100 other people in our 50s, we don't look like them.
No,
We're the outliers.
I think it's more important to talk, because I know a lot of the times your brain, because it's an interest of yours, goes to strength training and muscle. Mm-hmm. My brain goes to just being fit, being healthy, looking healthy, being a normal, healthy weight.
Right, but that's my point, is going out in public. Like I was at Costco, as you know, the other day, and I maybe saw one other person that looked healthy there. Everybody else, even the people that weren't much older than me, nobody looks healthy.
And healthy doesn't have to be these big,
No. I'm talking not a gut and bent over
Yeah.
walking like you're a gorilla,
Yeah.
like shuffling because your knees are so bad and swollen. And
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just talking walking, looking like a healthy, fit person who can stride along, and if they fall down, they can get up quickly. Yeah, I'm not talking looking like a fitness model.
By the way, kudos to you, because I was working with one of our mutual patients yesterday, and she said, had it not been for you teaching her how to get stronger so that she could get up off the ground, she fell out of bed. And she said that before coming to you, because she's in her 70s.
If I know who you're talking about, she's going to be 76 this weekend.
Okay. That before coming to you, there's no way she could have gotten up off the ground.
Yeah, it would have been an issue. Like,
It would have been
probably had to call 911.
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
Crisis. Back to what this leads into, which is our ability and goal of being physically active at least 12 hours a day. Now, what does that mean? It's hard for people to, because we're doing it in snippets. So we're going to talk about two different types, which is NEAT, which you had not heard of, what I call level 2, but you call zone 2 in your world of exercise physiology. So that's two different types of walking. So today we're talking about walking. Last time we talked about muscle. Today we're just talking about walking and the importance of walking to health.
Hold on, you said moving 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you want people to move 12 hours a day?
We should be up and physically active, when
I know we should be,
right.
But I'm playing devil's advocate here because it's easy for me in my job because I'm on the ground, I'm up, I'm working with people, I'm showing exercise, I'm moving most of my day. But the average person who works in a cubicle?
And that's an important part, because if your day yields 12 hours of sedentary behavior, then you've got to figure out how to change your life to move more, because sitting is the new smoking, right? So we're going to give some tips on what that looks like. It may not end up being a whole 12 hours, but as long as you are constantly aspiring every minute of every day to try to create an environment that helps you naturally move more, where you were talking about the natural signals in the brain, stuff that we don't even have to think about. I'm trying to help people learn that they can change their environment where it makes them naturally move more throughout the day. And that way we're more active than we are sedentary.
Wasn't there a study about fidgeters or something like that? Like people who bounce their legs or constantly like
fidgeting. It's the soleus muscle.
Okay.
So that's the calf muscle, right?
It's deep to the calf muscle.
Yeah. So they did a study, and I would have to look it up to give the exacts, because I don't know the exacts, but I know it equates to something like 300 extra calories a day burned for people who fidget just by bouncing their leg.
Which doesn't sound a lot, but 3,500 calories is a pound.
Yeah.
So over 10 days, that's a pound.
Yeah.
So that's
So,
pretty significant.
you get our daughter fidgets.
Yeah.
You've got to stop stopping her.
Do I stop her?
You do.
And she yells at me, so that's how I know.
Yeah. Okay.
We
so,
digress.
we digress. Okay. So let's talk about NEAT and let's talk about zone 2. So NEAT, and I'm going to, because I'll say this wrong. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's really what I call ADL's, activity of daily living. So you have to really kind of differentiate between NEAT or ADLs and, other walking, which is zone 2, which is actually more exercise.
So NEAT is going to be gardening,
Yes.
or doing
cleaning,
doing laundry,
just getting up and taking a shower, and when you park and you're walking into the store, maybe you take the stairs instead of the elevator, all of those things which are just daily because of your patterns. That's how you move. Okay, so that is NEAT, or what I call activities of daily living. Okay. When we talk about zone 2 or level 2, we're talking more about your heart rate is getting up, okay? But you're doing it for a duration of time, and it's a planned exercise. So you might go for a brisk walk. You might go for a bike ride. You might swim laps, that type of thing. So it's a combined between the two. So at the end of the day, what our goal is to try to achieve this 10,000 steps a day. Now, there has been some controversy regarding this 10,000 steps a day, and that we shouldn't really waste time recommending people get 10,000 steps a day. And this is where my role as a clinician who has done this for 30 years knows better than the people that have never seen patients who are trying to tell me that 10,000 steps don't matter, especially when we're talking about these people who have not been moving very much. So it is a great goal to go for, but not only that, is there's a lot of science behind this 10,000 steps, and if we can't achieve that 10,000 steps a day. Let me actually refer to the study now. It was published in JAMA in March of 2020.
JAMA is the Journal of the American Medical Association, so a good peer-reviewed journal.
Right. So the average person gets 3,000 to 4,000 steps a day.
And that's in the NEAT category, right?
That's right. Just
you get up out of bed, you go to the bathroom, you go to the kitchen, you make your coffee, you walk to your car, you get groceries. There's your 3,000 steps.
That's it. So that was one group, right? That was our control group. They had various ages, sex, ethnic groups. It was a diverse group. They assigned one group to get 8,000 steps a day, and then they assigned one other group to get 12,000 steps a day. So the interesting thing about this is the group that walked the 8,000 steps, they were able to reduce their risk of dying by 50%, which is significant.
Huge number.
But further to that, there was a group that walked 12,000 steps, and just the increase in the number of steps, not anything to do with the intensity, changed their visceral fat as well. So in other words, that just that increase in number of steps, what is that? The difference of 4,000 extra steps gave them that fat loss that they, most people are looking for.
3,000 is your basic, okay?
3 to 4.
3 to 4 is just your get up, move through activities of daily living, go to the bathroom, go to your car, shower, go to work, blah, 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 walk to the grocery store. Increase that to 8,000. We have a 50% reduction in all-cause mortality, which is enormous. And then we get to 12,000, then we have, a 65% reduction in all-cause mortality, right? And in that group that walked 12,000 or more, not only did they decrease all-cause mortality, which is all chances to die, basically.
By 65%.
By 65%, notwithstanding car wrecks and all that, but things that will get us like heart attacks and strokes and all that. They basically reduced visceral fat, which is the bad fat that gathers around the organs that will make you really sick and basically kill you. Yeah. Because that's the stuff that chokes your organs off and causes diabetes and all cancers and everything else. So they reduced that. They reduced hip circumference, which is basically a measure of how much subcutaneous, which is under the skin fat loss.
Yeah, around the hips.
Around the hips. And then what else?
They also showed a difference in their HDL, which is your good cholesterol. So think of it as the guy that ships the bad stuff out as it's coming in. So you want that to be high. Glucose, which we've talked about in the past, and the importance of controlling our glucose, as well as triglycerides. And that's just a circulation of fat and sugar molecules, if you will. So that's important to be low as well.
No increases in intensity. They weren't out there sweating their butts off. They weren't grinding, running up a hill backwards, and they were literally just went from 3,000 to 8,000 to 12,000.
Yeah, and then this is the difference. So when we're talking about walking, clearly you are maintaining muscle mass, but you're certainly not building.
No, not
right?
Walking,
okay. No. Now, if you were to add something like a weighted vest or do hills or something of that, that's where you're kind of combining where your body is building and adapting while walking, and there clearly is metabolic benefits from that as well. But we're just talking, this study in particular, the importance of getting, and the reason why they choose that 10,000 steps, because it's halfway between 8 and 12.
And again, this wasn't even zone 2. This was just activities of daily living walking.
No, so I think you're confusing zone. We're roping these together.
Gotcha.
Neat
Okay.
and zone 2 together.
Okay, so that's the importance, because I talk to my parents about this a lot. I'll call them and say, how are you guys doing? Did you get any exercise? Well, we did a lot of gardening today, or I did the laundry. And I always say, that's activity. That's good. That's okay. It's better than sitting around and doing nothing. But I want them doing some zone 2 so they can actually get a little bit of heart rate elevation, sustained activity. And here's another research paper showing why that's important.
So let's kind of talk about this practically. So let's say they are getting an average of 4,000 just doing their normal activities of daily living. Well, then imagine if you planned a zone 2 type walk, or maybe it was a walk and then a little bike ride or whatever, they could easily get that up to 12,000.
Yeah.
And here is what I recommend. Everybody just needs to figure out their starting point. And it's, it depends on where you start, on how quickly you advance, and we can talk about that. But for them to be able to move and to walk and consistently do this, they can't be in knee pain.
Right. So
that's how we're tying this together.
That's where I come in, right? But before we talk about the knee pain, you use a term a lot that I love. I hope you invented it, because it's kind of cool if you did, but what do you call it?
Hack stacking?
Hack stack.
I don't think I invented that. I don't know.
So, okay.
I clearly liked it because I'm using it.
Yeah, right. So it's, copying is a form of flattery, right? So let's say to somebody, one of your patients who doesn't have a knee issue, but they're like, I'm tired, I don't have time, my kids, my job. Give them some hack stacks so they can get those 8,000 to 10,000 steps to 12,000 steps.
Okay.
What are the Shannon Jones hack stacks?
I'm going to call these the Get Better Not Older, the GBNO hack stacks for my realm.
Okay.
So I would say first of what?
These are in the GBNO program, right? You have these hack stacks in your library?
They're not specifically called hack stacks, but the information is definitely in there.
There you go. Okay, just checking. Okay, let's take a little break from the podcast and answer some questions from Instagram. I'm going first.
Okay.
Shannon, is there a health goal for women in their 50s and 60s that they should really aim towards and are most attainable?
Here's what I would say. That is a very transitional time in a woman's life, whether it be the stage in life with perimenopause and menopause. But if you've been a mother, then you're probably an empty nester. So that's a very transitional time. A lot of changes going on just in your lifestyle. But I would say what I would focus on, for the very reasons that I just mentioned, are knowing your metabolic health. So running some labs through a good doctor who listens and takes time with you. I'm a big fan of integrative medicine, where you are combining medical doctors with more functional and integrative medicine. So I would recommend you find a very good integrative doctor who can help you through that transitional phase. I would recommend you follow a Mediterranean diet. I mean, that's about as best as I can do in a kind of a nutshell. Our Get Better Not Older protocol would be a great place, because it's taking you through that stage of life and taking you from where you are now and helping you improve. And then we want to obviously preserve what you have. And then, of course, walking 10,000 steps a day and making sure you are also doing some strength training at least 2 to 3 times a week.
What are your biggest pet peeves in the current social media environment with regard to fitness and health?
I just think it's the amount of people who are pretending to be professional, pretending to be experts because they read a book or they did a so-called certification. They have no business, just because they have a tight little outfit on and big muscles, giving nutrition information or health information. That's my pet peeve. What about you, Dr. Rob?
Yeah, so you nailed it. That's my pet peeve too, is I started saying this to my friend Lisa about 5-6 years ago. Everybody is an expert on social media, so nobody is. And that is my biggest pet peeve. Just because you look amazing with your shirt off and you can lift a ton of weight.
But you do.
I need to get better, not older. Just because you look great naked or in a sexy little outfit or your ripped abs or whatever, you can squat 600 pounds. Great, awesome for you. I'm happy for you. But it doesn't make you an expert.
Yeah.
When I make recommendations and I say, don't do this move, it's a garbage move, I will have all these trainer bros go, well, I've been doing this, this, and this, and this, and the research shows this, 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 and this, and this. And I don't ever say it because I don't want to engage in these arguments, but have they seen over 10,000 patients like I have and dealt with back pain in a clinical setting for 25 years? They haven't. They've seen a couple of people here and there, and anecdotally, their recommendations help. You're an expert in your field. I'm an expert in my field.
With 50 years of combined experience,
and I'm not
which
saying
makes a difference.
Right. And I'm not saying I'm any smarter than anybody else, but just kind of know your role. How about that?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Okay, my turn to ask.
Controversial. Go.
My turn. All right, Rob, if you could turn back time and be the inventor of one exercise, which one would it be?
Ooh, God, it'd be cool to invent an exercise. Gosh, I wish I would have invented the Russian twist because it's so good for your core. Not.
Oh my God.
No, I'm joking. Don't do Russian twists. Garbage move. Either the squat or the deadlift because they're foundational movements. If you can't squat, can't get off a toilet, can't get off a couch. If you can't deadlift, you can't pick up things off the ground. So I would like to be the inventor of the squat and or the deadlift.
I wish you could be the inventor of that for women so that they're not so intimidated by it because they think that is only for men with muscle shirts on in the gym grunting.
Yeah. So one of the biggest misnomers that I've seen my whole career is women saying, and I just had it with this new woman I've been training. She's 63. She's very fit. And she said, okay, but I don't want to get big and bulky.
Yeah.
I would never do it because I try to be professional, but I almost want to break out laughing because I've been trying to get big and bulky since I was 18 years old and I'm 52 and I've maybe put on 15 pounds of muscle. Now, if I did steroids, it'd probably be a lot more. But women are not going to get big and bulky because you guys don't have the testosterone or the joint morphology to manage big and bulky unless you take ergogenic aids, steroids.
It would be really cool had you been the inventor of this thing that makes it where women do it more than men.
That would be cool.
That'd be so cool.
Let's move on. Shannon, what is your go-to meal for a sweet tooth?
I mean, it doesn't include any sweets. So in other words, if somebody thinks that I'm going to tell them something that's going to encourage or help appease that sweet tooth, I'm talking here about prevention. So if you tend to have a sweet tooth, and I would say in my 30 plus years of counseling patients that typically comes in the evenings after dinner. Mm-hmm. What I would say, if you tend to have a sweet tooth, pay attention to what you did for breakfast because that makes a difference. Again, in our GBNO 12-week protocol, I go through all of this. So I would pay attention to, how much protein you're eating with all three of your meals. I would try to get a minimum of 30 grams of protein, minimum, no matter what age or, how old you are. And at dinner time, if you tend to have that sweet tooth after dinner, I would make sure a minimum of 30 grams of protein plus a serving of good fat. It's going to help you feel fuller, faster, for longer. If you add to that a bunch of veggies, which are going to be, one, hit your nutritional needs, two, add fiber, which helps you stay fuller, faster, for longer, helps lower your blood sugar, which will help curb that sweet tooth. That is what I would do. That might look like something like an egg salad made with avocado-based olive oil or olive oil-based mayonnaise, because there's your protein and there's your good fat. or chicken salad made. Have you seen now that they're taking, like a rotisserie chicken and chopping it up and then adding avocado to it to kind of make like a chicken salad with avocado, which is really delicious. But that is going to fill you up, and it's definitely going to satiate you. And what I mean by that word is it's going to help you not have that craving for sweets. If you still have a sweet tooth, I'm a huge fan of the nut butters that have the cocoa in them, like a Justin's. Just a tablespoon of that takes the edge off the sweet if you still have it.
That's my go-to. Justin's, what's the one? Vanilla almond, yum, and the chocolate hazelnut. It's very low in sugar, pretty high in fat. It's got nice flavor to it. So
you're getting protein, fat, and very low sugar.
Yeah. So if I, again, eat properly, you're going to be okay. Nice big spoonful of that. That'll knock out that sweet tooth.
That's right. And I like dark chocolate as long as you can control how much. A couple squares. Okay. Dr. Jones. Hey, Dr. Rob, what causes the pain in my lower back when I'm bending over?
Ooh, about 1 million things. Honestly, one of the most common causes of low back pain that I see clinically is lumbar flexion, which means bending over like this. We sit all day long in this slump posture. This is forward, this is backwards. So we're rounded. Okay. Now, when you go to stand up, you will come back here a little bit, but you spent a lot of time here. So now your discs are starting to be a little bit migrated this way. You go to bend over a lot, then go to the gym and do sit-ups and crunches. Now you've caused a potential for a disc bulge. That's number one, is as you get older, discogenic pain. It can also be just a little strain in the ligament or muscle. The main thing prevention-wise you can do for that is a hip hinge. So instead of, thank you very much, instead of bending like this, which is flexion, bend like this, which is a hip hinge. You will never hurt your back if you bend with a hip hinge. Now, hold on, let me finish before you all the gym bros are going to go, well, the spine is supposed to bend this way, man. And if you don't bend it this way, man, you're creating nocibic behavior, man. And you should do sit-ups to train the back to do that. Fine, do that if you want to do that. If you want a healthy spine, your back will round like that incidentally throughout the day. But if you're deliberate about hip hinging, you're not going to hurt your back.
I mean, I think that the important point there is that repetitive, constant this versus hip hinging, the majority of the time. Then when you do it a little bit, it's not going to hurt you.
No. Yeah, we're designed to flex, yes. If we do it too much and with too much load, that's how we end up having problems.
So when I'm bending over to get things out of the dryer,
hip hinge.
Right.
Okay, when you're bending over incidentally to spit toothpaste in the sink, you're probably going to be okay. Unless you have a herniation, then you never want to bend until that herniation heals. So that's it on questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Keep them coming. We love to answer them, and as you can see, we got plenty of answers. So back to the podcast.
So as far as these GBNO hack stacks, just for clarification, they will learn every single one of them and more in the GBNO 12-week protocol. For the podcast, what we have done, we decided we were going to kind of consolidate at the end of the podcast and talk about actionable steps that everybody can take based on what we presented. And so we're each going to give 2 or 3 what we call GBNO hack stacks. So that's kind of what we're going to start doing moving forward.
Well, hack stack it up, baby.
All right. So here's what I would recommend you do. You first track some type of tracker, whether it be any type of Fitbit, Apple Watch, or everybody's getting all different kinds of trackers these days. Whatever.
Simple pedometer.
Fits your lifestyle, accuracy. And that, obviously, if you are tracking ADLs, which is that activities of daily living, it needs to be something that's on you. So a lot of times people who will just use their phone, it doesn't necessarily work well because that doesn't stay on them all the time. So that would be track where you are now, get your baseline. And then the goal would be for every week you're wanting to increase that by 1,000 to 2,000 steps until you have figured it out. Okay, so let's talk about how that looks if you're only getting 4,000 and you're trying to get up to 12. What might that look like in a day? What I work with my patients on is changing their environment that makes them move more. So in other words, and it's not clearly something we can do while we're doing a podcast, but let's say, for instance, you have a desk job and you don't have a stand-up desk. That's the first thing I would do, because even standing up and shuffling back and forth, maybe even doing some squats or any of that, is going to be considered movement, right? The other thing is, you might have to be sitting to be typing, but if you're on phone calls, you can be up pacing. And that's really what I do with my patients. All my patients, we stopped doing Zoom long ago during the pandemic. That kind of, everybody started doing all that. What I told my patients is I wanted them moving and I wanted to be moving while we're talking. So we walk and talk. So things like inserting reasons to walk and move more from the very beginning of your day all the way till the end of your day. And so I'm going to give you examples.
Go.
Okay. So it might look like this. You park in the parking lot, but you park further away. And not only that you park further away, but you also are in a garage, and instead of taking the elevator, you take the stairs. You go to your office. You might say, first thing I do when I get to my office is I go put my lunch in the refrigerator and grab coffee. What I would recommend is, if it's possible, go to a different floor to do that so that you're taking the steps. When you have potty breaks, go to a potty on a different floor, take the steps. Again, everywhere you go, parking further away and taking steps, that might seem like something really simple. However, if you're doing that 24/7, 365 days a year, that makes a difference over time. Don't meet your friends for lunch. Say, let's go for a walking lunch. Maybe eat something, quickly at your desk, and then get up and go for the rest of the time and walk and talk, is what I always say. When people want to ask me questions about nutrition and they want to meet, I'll say, I won't meet you to have coffee or lunch. I say, let's go for a walk. So you have to change your thinking to, don't meet for a movie. Don't meet for, go for a walk, go for a hike, go figure out what you can do to move more. So that's what I would recommend, is figure out how you can change your patterns throughout the day that makes you move more.
Yeah. What do you think about like those treadmills, those little kind of under the desk treadmills? Good idea?
Walking desks, I love them. I mean, it's pretty much kind of what I've inserted without it, but I think you can go up to 3.8 miles per hour without the railings up. You can definitely stick that underneath, but you obviously have to have a desk that raises up.
I don't know if you remember my old office manager, Rhonda, but I had bought her a Veridesk because she was getting neck problems. Yeah. And I think it was $350. It was nothing. And it's this 2-level thing where she was sitting at her desk. She had her laptop and other things on it. And when her neck was bothering her, her back was bothering her, she would hit these little levers. It would lift up, and you could adjust it a little bit to the height you want it. And then boom, you're standing, and you could march in place or...
Yeah, and they're very common these days, especially with a lot of people, working at home, et cetera, and couldn't get to gyms. So all of that is very common. It's just a matter of incorporating them and remembering to use them. People get into, like you say, just muscle memory where they just sit right away. And you have to have, maybe you set your iPhone for every 30 minutes to remind yourself to do 10 square, chair squats or something like that, before, or maybe you do 10 chair squats before you go to the potty, or maybe you do it as you get back, something like that. As far as then, in addition to that, I think something that's really good, really, just for your internal health, is walking after meals. So inserting 10-minute walks after each meal of the day. So what's 10 minutes times 3?
I'm pretty sure that's 30. Did I get that right?
That's right. So that's a additional, but that, you're breaking it up, so that helps. And a lot of cultures do that. Americans don't, but a lot of cultures go for, they all call it something different, walks after meals, but it does help with your blood glucose control, as well as obviously it's good for you.
Lots of studies on blood glucose control after dinner walking.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about that.
But it's not just dinner, lunch, breakfast, it's inserting those in. A lot of the times businesses give people breaks and they don't take them. Yeah. I always say to my patients, why? Take that as a walk break, even if you don't smoke or whatever, please, I hope you're not, but take those breaks. That is your health you're investing in. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then when you schedule a walk, maybe with a friend, or you're going to the gym or going on a bike ride or whatever, you can plan to increase that intensity by even wearing a weighted vest, maybe ones that you can add weight to as you get stronger so that you're actually building some muscle as well. Mm-hmm. Changing your treadmill to hills, increasing maybe the intensity on the cycling, things of that sort. So it's very easy to insert those in. So those would be my hack stacks: tracking, increasing your NEAT, which is that activities of daily living, changing your patterns, and then investing in or having, a scheduled, what we call zone 2, but consider increasing your intensity during that time for other health benefits as well.
Give me a quick 24,000 foot view zone 2. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but zone 2 cardio, what is it?
Going for a scheduled walk, that you're getting your heart rate up normal than just walking around and cleaning or gardening.
Heart rate above the knee.
Like you're breathing, you can be on a walk with somebody, but your respirations are up. You are breathing harder. Mm-hmm.
But not so hard that you're huffing and puffing.
You should be able to have a conversation, but you also should be breathing harder. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. It does make perfect sense. Because it's all the talk nowadays, right? From all the longevity medicine doctors, zone 2 cardio, zone 2 cardio, zone 2 cardio. And it's because of this particular study, that obviously that's impressive to be able to decrease your all-cause mortality by 65%. Yeah, that's huge.
And, but I do believe that it's important to, just say, once you get that down, challenge yourself to add that intensity, because there are benefits that come from increasing muscle mass, things of that sort.
Yeah, then now you start talking about basal metabolic rate, which is the rate at which your physical engine burns at rest. We'll do another podcast on that.
Right.
Okay, so...
But it can change your your metabolic health for the better by increasing the intensity.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Really. There's really not too much bad that's going to happen from exercise, unless you do it too much and you don't recover enough, you don't eat right. And again, we can probably do a podcast on lack of recovery and exercise intensity being too high, etc.
One last thing.
Yes.
What I don't want people to do is this all or none thing. Mm-hmm. And this is where, this is the biggest takeaway, because so many so-called experts on social media make you think that you have to have this cute little outfit on and go to the gym and be grunting and doing this perfect little workout. The takeaway is walking matters. Yeah. And the types of walking and the duration of walking matters, but it's not an all or none. If you have a day that you're just not feeling it, so be it. Give yourself some grace and get right back to it the next day. We're going to strive to move 10,000 steps a day. Some days are going to be better than others. I have some people that'll say, oh, I set myself a challenge and I'm not quite there. And during commercials, I get up and I pace around the island in my kitchen until I hit my goal. I mean, everybody does it different, but don't have the all or nothing mentality. Even just going for a 10-minute walk, even if it wasn't a perfect 10,000 or 8,000 or 12,000, a 10-minute walk is better than no walk at all.
Right. And the all or nothing principle of, I can't tell you how many times, well, I'm getting ready for my vacation. Oh, but now I forget it. I didn't get in shape the way I wanted to, so I might as well just start drinking now in preparation for my vacation. Or, I blew up my diet on vacation, so I'm just going to come home and do whatever I want. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Do something. Something's better than nothing.
Yep.
Once you start feeling better, you'll probably do more.
Yep.
Okay, so
what are your hack stacks, Dr.
Well, I was getting ready to say. So the most important thing is if you are in pain, go see somebody, okay? Go get a diagnosis. Go work with somebody who does physical medicine. And again, nothing against medical doctors, but medical doctors typically aren't educated on how to manage musculoskeletal problems. They can diagnose you, but then you're going to end up going into this rabbit hole of imaging, orthopedics, that sort of thing. And again, nothing wrong with all that. We need all of that. So you're better off going to see somebody like me who can diagnose you and actually treat you on the first day. Go see a physical therapist. Go see a chiropractor that does active release or rehab. Somebody who will not just give you passive therapy. Okay, passive therapy is only one equation. Passive therapy meaning massage, adjustments, laser therapy, acupuncture. That will help with some pain, but you have to actively move a joint through a range of motion, strengthen a muscle, stretch a muscle, etc. So if you're hurting, go see somebody. Okay, now, if you're really just stiff and you don't have a lot of pain, then, maybe get the knee protocol of the GBNO app. Okay, it's very inexpensive, and go through those steps, some simple exercises. So if you don't know the name of these movements, just go through my Instagram or go into the app and you can find these very easy. But my simple hack stacks for people who haven't walked a lot and really are concerned with knee pain or stiffness is: number 1, get the hip moving better. Number 2, get the ankle and foot moving better. Number 3, come back to the knee. So number 1, hip airplane. That's always my biggest move because the foot gets planted into the ground the right way. It tells the brain how to get the foot ready for walking. Then when you move the hip in and out on a hip airplane, which we've done with you a ton for hip issues, I do with people for back issues, knee issues, but it's the best, most practical exercise because you can lean against a counter and do it. You can lean against a wall or tree or your car, and you go in and out of your hip. It activates your glutes. It gives you range of motion in your hip and knee, and then it tells your brain the patterning of how your hip and knee should move for a walk. That's number 1. Number 2, terminal knee extension. Again, it's going to be on my Instagram, and we'll actually, now that I think about it, we'll put links onto the podcast here, so you can go right to my Instagram or YouTube and actually see these videos. They're very quick and easy. Take a band. If this is your knee, you put the band above your knee, you hook it up to something over here, and you just bend and straighten and bend and straighten until you get a little tired in the front of your knee. That activates your quadricep muscles and then teaches your knee to get into flexion and terminal knee extension, which is a nice locked-in point where you need to be for walking. Number 3 is we get into the foot. Get a tennis ball, take your shoe off, smash down on the tennis ball with the bottom of your foot and roll back and forth. This way, roll this way. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, but that will stimulate the muscles in the bottom of your foot because most people don't realize this, but we're monkeys, okay? We used to hang from trees like chimpanzees do, okay? We have a grabbing mechanism on the ground when we walk. And if you've been in those massive Hoka shoes all day long, or your feet have been crammed into dress shoes all day long, and your foot is crammed together, your arches and the muscles in your foot can't function properly. So get on a tennis ball, roll the foot out, splay out all these muscles, and that will tell your brain, oh, we need to start doing this. Now you've got your foot activated, you've got your knee mechanisms activated, you got your hip activated, off you go.
And now we're going to walk 10,000 steps.
Now we're going to walk 10,000 steps. So there you go. Episode 4 wrapped up. Knee health, walking health, so you can get better, not older. And remember, do these things every day if you can. If you miss a day, no big deal. But remember, follow these protocols so you can move, feel, and live better from the outside in
And the inside out.